Okay, last week we started talking about how to annoy your family this Christmas season. Blake first started on sometimes we see families who look like they have it all put together. They have things that they want, and we begin to get jealous of that. We want what they want. We want that happiness that we tend to see. But sometimes it's not always what it looks like on the outside. Those families have pain just like we do. They tend to hurt. They get into arguments, they disagree with each other. There are times where they're unhappy. But then we also started to talk about that if you want to see a change, that you want to start to see your family get better, that you need to start annoying them. And it's not annoying in a bad way of poking at them and making them angry. It's annoying them in a way that is good, that's different. It's about changing your attitude, having good behavior, and that might come as a shock to them. And that's a way that you can be annoying. Now, we want to keep teaching you on how to annoy your family, and show you just making those changes can happen, and you can start to see change because of that. Now, it doesn't just stop at changing your attitude, although that is very important. With that alone, you can begin to see good changes happening. But that's just it. Are you changing? You know, sometimes you have to stop and think. In order for changes to happen, somebody's going to have to change. But you have to ask the question that, are you the problem, or are you part of the solution? Especially when you get into different situations with family, and you can either win or lose. But you have to listen carefully, because the ways of winning that you might think about may be different than what you might think. Now, last week we talked about a family from the Old Testament. It was the first family, Cain and Abel's family, and we saw how messed up they were and the problems they had. Well, we're going to talk about another family here, just a couple generations after them, but this family tended to they had a lot of their own problems too. Most of you might know who this guy is, Joseph. Now Joseph, he had a pretty interesting story. He's known for having that multicolored coat that his father gave him and being pretty good at interpreting dreams. Now, I don't know how good you are at figuring out dreams. I know sometimes mine are kind of weird. I don't usually know what they mean, and it's usually a result of the Taco Bell I had the night before, so they can be pretty bizarre. But anyways, we're talking about Joseph and the problems that he had in his family. Now, I have two sisters, and I used to think that was too many siblings. But Joseph had a few more than that. He had 11 brothers. That doesn't even count how many sisters he had. So he had quite a large family. Now we're going to take a look at the beginning of the Joseph story. So please, if you're following along, turn in your Bibles to Genesis chapter 37, and we'll begin reading verses 3 through 8. Now Israel, who is Jacob, loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age, and he made an ornate, which means really nice, robe for him. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves, which are bundles, of grain out into the field, when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright." Bizarre. "While your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." Wow, this is a really weird dream. Now, his brother said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he had said. Now, there's a lot going on in those few verses, and Joseph is viewed as the favorite child, but he also doesn't seem too humble about it when he tells his brothers about this dream. But his brothers don't respond all that well either. If you look back, I counted 3 times out of the 6 verses where it said they hated him. Now, if we go back to verse 4, it reads, "When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him." Now, that verse brings us to our first win-lose scenario. Now, we can go into this with a me-first attitude, which equals a lose, or we can have an others-first attitude and have a win with our family. So here's the first point. You can either tear down or you can lose.